We're displaying our current user's position on the map with this pin. However, how are we going to allow that user to add new pins to the map when they want to add some text or an image in a location? How are we going to enable them to put a pin in the location that they clicked on? The first step to doing this is going to our map component and adding an onClick. So on the opening tag of React Map.gl, we'll add an onClick set to a new function, handle map click. And when we click on the map, we're going to get an event object with a bunch of information on it. So we'll add event in the parameters and just console log this event. So whenever we click on the map and take a look in the console, we get returned to us an object with a bunch of information. And what's going to be important for us to set the pin in a certain location is this longe_lat property. It's going to give us the longitude and latitude of where we clicked on the map. And something important to note, when a user just clicks on the map, that pin is not going to be persisted to our application. It's not going to be there forever. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to allow users to create a draft pin. They'll be able to move it around where they want. They can add some text and an image to the pin, but this draft pin is going to allow them to move it around until they find the spot they want, and then they can submit it, and only then will the pin itself be persisted. So when the user clicks on a map, we want to create a draft pin. And also, it's important to note that when we click on the map, it also registers whether we use the left or the right button. We only want to put a pin on the map when we use the left button, when we left click on the map. If we right click, we don't want to add a pin because we want to still be able to right click on the map to, for example, look at our dev tools. So let's go back to handle map click and destructure from the event two properties, longe_lat and left button. If we clicked with our left button, we'll execute handle map click. Otherwise, we're going to return from this function. So if not left button, return. And then we mentioned that we want to create a draft when a user clicks on the map, and we want to store that in our global state. So we need to head to our context file, context.js, and add a new piece of state where draft is set to null. So then back in map, we want to first read from state. So we need the use context hook. We'll bring that in, and we'll also import context from /context. And then we can use context. We'll do it above our two use state hooks. And we'll get back both state and dispatch. We'll destructure both of those values from use context. And then we'll add another conditional on handle map click. If not state.draft, if state.draft is null, but we clicked on the map, we want to dispatch a new action where the type will be create draft. So now we want to head to our reducer file and add a new case, create draft. So case create draft is just going to return our state. We'll spread in our state, and then we'll update draft to have a object with a latitude value of 0 and a longitude value of 0. This create draft case is going to be important when we actually persist pins to our map. So we'll come back to this later. But for now, we're creating a draft when we click on the map. And then from this longe_lat value, this longe_lat property, we can use array destructuring to get from this array the longitude and the latitude. So the 0th element is longitude, the first is latitude. Then after we've created the draft, we want to immediately update the draft location. So we'll dispatch another action where the type is update draft location, and the payload is an object with longitude and latitude. Then we'll head back to our reducer, add a new case, update draft location, and return the state and the draft will be set to the payload that it's receiving. Then in order to display our draft pin on the page, we'll add a new area between our map tags for the draft pin, where once again we'll add a conditional. We'll check to see if state.draft is non-null. If that's the case, we'll return another marker, and we can just copy the marker that we included for the user current location pin. The only difference is that instead of user.position, this will be state.draft.latitude and state.draft.longitude. And instead of the pin icon being red, we'll change it to hot pink. Now once we save all of our files, if we head back to our map and try clicking on a new location, we'll see our draft pin pops up there. And if we click on another area, it moves over to where we clicked.